This one's tough. Jesus says these words, Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani, which means, my God, why have you forsaken me? You know, I've always been puzzled by this statement that Jesus makes as he's dying on the cross. It is often confusing to imagine why Jesus would say that God had forsaken him in such a time of need. So I dug deep, and I'm going to share with you all why Jesus made those statements on the cross. So the first question I had was, it almost seems in that statement that like you didn't want to die at the cross, as if maybe the pain was too much in that moment. But you see, the problem with that theory is that the scriptures never say it. In fact, it never says that Jesus was hit and then immediately screamed out of pain. It's never depicted that way. But you see, the Bible, when given the opportunity to be very descriptive about pain and suffering, it doesn't hold back. It says here that David wept until he couldn't weep anymore, that Job was broken, had no peace, he had no rest, only had turmoil. It says that Jeremiah was cursed, he screamed out to the Lord. It says that in 1 Samuel, it says, in deep anguish, Hannah prayed to the Lord, weeping bitterly. The Bible is very descriptive when God's people are suffering and going through pain. So wouldn't this be the perfect opportunity to share with the world just what it meant for Jesus to die on that cross? So when you think about it, I mean, his hands were pierced with stakes this long, and his intestines were stuck with a sword and leaking out of his body. It said that his spine was exposed to the wood on the back of the cross, and so his back is up against this cross. And what a lot of people don't know is that he actually died from suffocation. So for him to breathe, he had to push down on the stakes within his feet to lift his body up, to allow the pooling of blood within his lungs to elongate so that he could get a gasp of breath in. And as he would lift himself up, his back would scrape along the wood pillar that had his spine exposed, and the splintered, rough wood would expose him. This is hard to talk about. But through all of that, it never says that he screams in pain, not once. But what you will find in Matthew 27:45, it says, from noon until 3 in the afternoon, a darkness came over the land. And in the next verse, Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani. The sky goes dark, and he screams out, my God, why have you forsaken me? Jesus has been on this cross for over 9 hours at this point. And it's now that he screams out for the first time. Not the pegs, not the spine, his intestines being ripped out of his body, none of it. So what does this darkness mean? So you know that darkness, throughout the entire Bible, darkness represents evil and sin. And for the first time ever, Jesus is hanging on that cross. And for 3 hours, as the sky turns dark, he has taken on the sins of you and I. And what you'll see, it was at that point that Jesus, for the first time, screams out, not, I'm in pain, but my God, why have you forsaken me? And what you'll find here is, for the first time, there is separation because of the sins that Jesus had took on. And the Father does not leave you, but we leave him. And it was that separation that Jesus could not bear. It wasn't the pain of the whips, them snatching his beard out, the stakes through his hand. It wasn't any of that. It was separation from God. You see, we throw around this word, the ultimate sacrifice. Jesus died for our sins. We love you. John 3:16, right? But then we go sin, and we act like we don't care. But it was in the moment that Jesus didn't have his Father for the first time, because they had a deep, intimate relationship. They spoke daily. But it was the first time they had separation that Jesus cried out. And so as you and I get to walk in sin and just, hey, forgive me, God, right? Not that we want to sin, but we have that opportunity to get forgiveness by what he did at the cross. Don't take for granted that relationship with your Father, because Jesus, as our example, shows each and every one of us what it means to be separate from God. I love you guys. This is Eric Scott with the Lions Faith Podcast. Stay blessed.